Umar Tunde, coming to you live and direct from Sacramento, California. And I got a question from one of my lady supporters. She said, Dr. Umar, what are some of the mistakes that we women make when we find out our men are cheating? So I want to give you a couple mistakes that women often make when they find out their men are cheating. Number one, throw a pity party. A pity party shows your man that you're weak. A pity party shows you have no control over the situation. You're completely irrational, emotional, and illogical. The worst thing you can do when you find out your man is cheating is throw a pity party and show him you have low self-esteem, low emotional discipline, and low personal control. Do not throw a pity party. You're only showing him that he completely controls the entire relationship dynamic. Number two, say you're leaving and you actually stay. One of the worst things you can do when your man cheats is tell him you're leaving and you don't leave. Okay, few people know you better than the man sleeping with you. And the reason why he pays no attention to your threats of leaving is you've already threatened him 3 or 4 or 5 times before when he cheated and you went absolutely nowhere. Never tell a man you're leaving if you're not leaving, because you're only showing him how weak you really are. Number three, don't confront the other woman. What are you confronting the other woman for? She's not your friend. She's not your cousin. She's not your coworker. Now, if she is, you do have a right to confront her based on your personal relationship to her. But to go to a complete stranger and confront her about sleeping with your husband, your fiance, your boyfriend, she's innocent. Now, you can make her aware that this is a married man or this is a committed man, but, you know, trying to fight her or curse her out or damage her, she has no obligation to you. Stop deflecting and stop distracting. You're supposed to be dealing with the man, okay, who violated your trust, not the innocent woman who has no obligation to you at all. Number four, don't become a stalker. Some women want to over-control their man after finding out he's a cheater. You want to show up at the job, show up at the friend's house. If you have to stalk your man, he's not your man. Let me say that again. If you have to stalk your man, he's not your man. And number five, don't get emotional, yelling and screaming and throwing things. That's just communicating to him how much lack of control you have, okay? And it's also showing him how low your confidence is as it relates to you actually moving on. There's no need to get emotional. Power is not emotional. Power is silent. If you're loud and emotional, that's not power, that's weakness. If you really have self-respect, self-control, you will not get emotional. You'll simply tell him the way things are going to be going forward, or rather than even tell him, you will just show him how things are going to be going forward. What I am saying to my beautiful African queens, the most important work you have to do in preparing for a relationship, to all my beautiful African sisters out there, the most important work you have to do in preparing for a relationship is not on your body. It is not on your face. It is not on your resume. It is in your mind. There is nothing more attractive than a black woman who is comfortable in her own skin. There is nothing more attractive than a black woman who is comfortable in her own skin. There is nothing more attractive than a black woman who accepts herself for herself. There is nothing more attractive than a black woman who accepts herself for herself. Because self-confidence is God attraction. Self-confidence is God attraction. This is why you will see a woman who you say, she don't look half as good as me. How did she get him? The self-confidence. Self-confidence will pull a man halfway across a room. Self-confidence will have a man looking at a woman all night long who doesn't even look half as good as the woman he's with. Self-confidence is the most sexiest thing. It's the most important thing. It's the most attractive thing. That's what you need to work on. Black, I don't care if you're 500 pounds, 250 pounds, 100 pounds. If you can accept yourself, if you can genuinely come to a point and say, I love who I am as I am. I don't need nobody to validate me. You'll be surprised at the amount of men who will be seeking your acquaintance. I have seen it. I have seen women transform their romantic life by transforming the way that they look at themselves. There is nothing more important for a woman to have than a high level of self-confidence. Let's continue. Don't let him move in unless he's a keeper. A relationship is not a house. A relationship is not a car. What am I saying? Don't stay in a relationship. Don't stay in a toxic relationship any longer because you've already been in it too long. I've been talking to a lot of black women, and when I ask them, why are you still with him? Because this doesn't sound like a situation that's conducive to your mental or spiritual health. And you know what so many black women are telling me? You know what so many of my relationship coach clients are telling? Dr. Umar, I've already been with him for 10 years. So I need to just hang in there and try to make it work. Dr. Umar, I'm not getting any younger. I'm 50 years old. I'm not getting no younger. I done already gave him 20 years. I've been with him from 30 to 50. Who gonna want me? I'm just gonna hang in here. There's nothing worse than a black woman whose self-confidence is so low that she chains herself to a dysfunctional relationship because she don't think she can do better. So many black women are chained to dysfunctional relationships because you don't think you can do better, number one. Or number two, you done already invested so much time, so much money, and so much coochie. You done already invested so much time, so much money, and so much coochie. You done already invested so much time, so much money, and so much Cinnabons and cupcakes and cookies that you like, I done put too much into this. Dr. Umar, I done spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this relationship. It'll hurt me to leave it. Well, guess what? It's going to hurt you more if you stay. You don't know how long God gave you to be on this earth. I don't care if you're 50 years old. What if you're supposed to live to 100? What are you going to live to 90? What if you're going to live to 80? You mean to tell me that the same dysfunctional relationship you've been in from 30 to 50, you willing to stay in it from 50 to 100 just because you put 20 years in? Are you kidding me? You are willing to sell happiness that short. You are literally willing to give up on ever finding happiness just because you put 10 years in, just because you put 20 years in. Damn that. I'm of the opinion that one day of happiness is worth more than 20 years of misery. One day of happiness is worth more than 20 years of misery. One day of happiness is worth more than 20 years of misery. Black woman, and you've heard me tell you sisters this before. Black woman, and you've heard me tell you sisters this before. The toughest relationship decision, the toughest decision you ever have to make in a relationship is when to stay and fight for it or when to quit and abandon it. The toughest relationship decision for man or woman, do I stay and fight to make this relationship better? Or do I cut my losses and find something better? Do I stay in this relationship to make it better? Or do I cut my losses and find something better? That's the toughest decision to make. But I just want black women to understand this. The worst decision you can make is to stay in a relationship just because of time served. Let me ask you a question. If you got locked up and you had to go to jail for 20 years, if you got locked up for a crime you didn't commit and you had to go to jail for 20 years, and after you serve your 20 years in prison, the warden say, it's time for you to get up. It's time for you to get out. Would you turn around and tell the warden, I done already put 20 years in. I might as well stay for the rest of my life. Wouldn't that be insane? What if you had somebody you cared about who had to do 20 years in prison? And when the 20 years came up for them to get out, they told the prison they'd already put 20 years. I might as well stay in jail the rest of my life. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It's ridiculous. But that's what a lot of black women do in relationships. A lot of black women feel if I put 20 years in, I might as well stay for the rest of my life. It's the worst decision she can make. But a lot of black women have chained themselves to dysfunctional relationships for the rest of their life. You better be careful. Something else you don't want to do. Don't let your children call your boyfriend or your fiance daddy if he's not their daddy.